Dr. Kim Hanna sat in her small laboratory at Seoul National University, staring at numbers on her computer screen that made no sense. For 3 weeks, the quantum particles in her experiments had been acting strange. They moved in patterns that should not exist in nature. "Miho, come look at this," she called to her research partner who was drinking coffee in the corner. Dr. Park Miho walked over and looked at the data. His eyes grew wide. "These particles are moving in perfect mathematical sequences. It's like they're following computer code." Hannah nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I was thinking. But that's impossible, right? Particles don't follow programming languages." The two scientists spent the entire night running more tests. Every experiment showed the same impossible results. The tiny pieces of matter that make up everything in the universe were behaving like they were part of a giant computer program. The next morning, their colleague Dr. Lee Jinwoo ran into the lab. He was holding his tablet and breathing hard like he had been running. "You need to see this news report," Jinwoo said, showing them his screen. "Research teams in America, Europe, and Japan are all reporting the same thing. Quantum particles everywhere are showing these weird patterns." Hannah felt her heart beating fast. "It's not just our lab?" "No." Jinwoo shook his head. "Scientists in Tokyo found the same mathematical sequences in cosmic radiation from space. The team in London discovered them in the empty space between atoms. Even biologists are finding these patterns in living cells." The three friends looked at each other with fear and excitement. They were discovering something that could change everything humans believed about reality. Over the next few days, more reports came in from around the world. Every type of scientist was finding the same thing. The universe seemed to be running on some kind of massive computer system. Dr. Choi Hyen from the Korean Institute of Technology called Hannah's team for a video meeting. On the screen, Hyen looked tired but excited. "I've been working with computer programmers to analyze these patterns," Hyen said. "The mathematical sequences we're finding match known programming languages. It's as if the entire universe is written in code." Miho leaned forward. "Are you saying we're living inside a computer simulation?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," Hyen replied. "And we're not the first to discover this." Hyen shared files from space agencies around the world. For decades, humans have been receiving strange radio signals from other planets. Most scientists thought they were natural phenomena. But when the signals were analyzed with this new understanding, they revealed something shocking. "These signals are communications between alien civilizations," Hyen explained, "and they've known about the simulation for thousands of years. The alien messages spoke about something they called the Great Code and the Forbidden Knowledge. These other species had discovered long ago that their universe was artificial, created by an ancient race they called the Architects. But unlike humans, the aliens had reacted to this discovery with sadness and fear. They believed they were just characters in someone else's story, with no real control over their lives. They accepted their fate and refused to study the code that controlled their reality. The aliens think it's wrong to try to understand or change the programming," Hyen said. "They call it blasphemy." Hannah laughed, but not because she thought it was funny. She laughed because the alien reaction seemed so strange to her human mind. "If we're living in a computer program," she said, "then we can learn how that program works. We can study it, understand it, maybe even improve it." Jinwoo nodded eagerly. "Other species see this as the end of free will, but I see it as the beginning of ultimate freedom. If reality is code, then we can learn to rewrite that code." Within a week, the discovery became public knowledge around Earth. Some humans reacted with panic and despair, like the aliens had. Religious groups argued about what it meant. Philosophers debated whether their lives had meaning if they were artificial. But many humans, especially the scientists and computer programmers, saw incredible opportunity. If the universe was a simulation, then its rules could be changed. Problems that seemed impossible to solve might have simple solutions hidden in the programming. Hannah's team received funding from governments around the world to study the universal code. They moved to a larger facility and began working with the best minds from every field of science. "We need to understand how the simulation works," Hannah told her expanded team on their first day in the new lab. "The aliens gave up when they learned the truth, but humans don't give up. We adapt, we learn, and we find ways to make things better. The young programmer Yoon SUA raised her hand. What if we can't just read the code? What if we can actually change it? Hannah smiled. That was exactly the kind of thinking that made humans different from every other species in the galaxy. While aliens saw discovering their artificial nature as a reason for despair, humans saw it as the ultimate challenge to overcome. Then we become the programmers. Hannah said simply, and we make this universe better than the architects ever imagined. The room filled with excited chatter as scientists and programmers began planning humanity's greatest adventure, learning to rewrite the code of reality itself. 6 months after discovery, Dr. Choi Hyen walked through the underground research facility built beneath the mountains outside Seoul. The Global Reality Research Consortium had brought together the smartest people from every country on Earth. Scientists, computer programmers, mathematicians, and hackers all worked together in the secret base. The simulation is much more complex than we first thought. Hyen told his team during their morning meeting. We've found what looks like instruction manuals hidden in the quantum level reality. The original programmers left behind guides for how their system works. Programmer Yoon SUA pulled up holographic displays that filled the room with glowing code. These aren't just random patterns. They're actual documentation, like the help files you find in computer software. The architects wanted someone to understand their work. Dr. Song Jae-won, who studied alien life, stood up to share her latest findings. I've been talking to alien civilizations through our radio systems. Every species I contact has the same story. They discovered the simulation long ago, but they chose to ignore these instruction files. The room grew quiet as everyone listened. Jae-won continued. The Altarians found a code 3,000 years ago. The Veltorians discovered it even earlier, but they all decided it was too dangerous to study. They called the instruction files forbidden knowledge and refused to read them. Hyen shook his head in amazement. They've had access to the universe's source code for thousands of years, and they never looked at it. Worse than that, Jae-won said. They try to stop other species from looking at it too. When the Xantharian race started studying the code 500 years ago, the other aliens convinced them to stop. The Xantharians destroyed all their research and went back to living normal lives. Young researcher Kim Tae-woo raised his hand. Were they afraid of... Jae-won showed them recordings of her conversations with alien ambassadors. On the screen, a tall blue creature with large eyes spoke in a translated voice. Your species must not tamper with the sacred code, the alien said. We are honored to exist within the great simulation. To change it would be to destroy the natural order. We are characters in divine story, and characters should not try to rewrite their own tale. The humans in the room looked at each other with confusion. Dr. Park Sun-ho, who led the physics team, laughed quietly. They think being in a simulation makes them less real, Sun-ho said. But that doesn't make sense. We're still here. We still think and feel and dream. Whether we're made of atoms or computer code doesn't change who we are. SUA nodded and brought up new displays showing the code structure they had been mapping. I've been studying these instruction files for months. The architects were incredibly smart, but they weren't perfect. I'm finding bugs in their programming, places where the code could work better. Bugs? Asked Dr. Lee Yuna, another programmer on the team. Mistakes in the code, SUA explained. For example, the speed of light is set as a limit, not because it has to be, but because the architects couldn't figure out how to make the physics engine handle faster speeds without crashing. It's like they put training wheels on the universe. Hyen felt excitement building in his chest. Are you saying we could fix these problems? Maybe, SUA said carefully. But first we need to understand how the system works. The aliens have been living with these limitations for millions of years because they never tried to read the manual. The team spent the next several weeks working around the clock. They learned that the simulation ran on something like a cosmic computer network, with different sections handling different aspects of reality. One part controlled gravity, another managed time, and others took care of energy, matter, and space. It's like the most advanced video game ever created, explained programmer Dr. Ryudo Hyen during a video call from his research station in Mumbai. Except instead of controlling characters, We are the characters, and we just found out we can access the game's control panel. The breakthrough came when Una discovered hidden administrator accounts left behind by the architects. These special access codes would allow someone to modify the simulation settings, but only if they could prove they understood how the system worked. It's like they left behind a test, Una told the team. If a species is smart enough to find these accounts and pass the tests, they earn the right to become junior programmers of reality. Jaiwan received more angry messages from alien civilizations who had learned about humanity's research. They're calling us dangerous and reckless, she reported. The Altarian Council sent a formal warning, saying we're risking the stability of the entire universe. But Hyan wasn't worried about alien disapproval. Humans had always been explorers, always pushing boundaries that other species accepted as permanent. When early humans saw the ocean, they built boats. When they saw the sky, they invented flying machines. Now, they had discovered the universe was programmable, and they were going to learn that programming language. Let the aliens stay as users if they want, Hyan told his team. But humans are going to become developers. We're going to learn how this reality engine works, and then we're going to make it better. The investigation phase was nearly complete. Soon, it would be time to start testing their new knowledge on the universe itself. Kim Tae-woo was nervous as he stood in the Seoul laboratory on that Tuesday morning. For 3 months, he had been studying the universe's code with his team. Today, he was going to try something that had never been done before. He was going to change reality. "Are you sure this is safe?" asked his supervisor, Dr. Kim Hannah, watching from behind detective glass. Tae-woo nodded, though his hands were shaking slightly. "I'm only changing gravity inside this small test chamber. If something goes wrong, it won't affect anything outside this room." The test chamber was the size of a phone booth, made of special materials that would contain any problems. Inside, Tae-woo had placed a metal ball on a table. According to normal physics, the ball should stay on the table because of gravity. Tae-woo sat down at his computer and opened the reality modification program that his team had built. On his screen, he could see the code that controlled gravity in their small section of the universe. It looked like any other computer program, with numbers and commands that told gravity how strong to be. "Here goes nothing," Tae-woo whispered to himself. He carefully changed one number in the code. Instead of normal gravity, he set it to 0.7, which meant gravity would be 30% weaker inside the test chamber. He held his breath and pressed the enter key. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the metal ball began to rise from the table. It floated gently upward until it touched the ceiling of the chamber. The laboratory erupted in cheers. Hannah ran to the computer to check the readings. "It's working," she shouted. "Gravity inside the chamber is exactly 0.7 normal strength, and it's staying stable." News of the successful test spread quickly to research teams around the world. Within days, human scientists everywhere were trying their own reality modifications. Dr. Jang Minji's team in Tokyo learned something amazing. They discovered they could create small pocket dimensions by editing the space coordinates in the universe's code. These were tiny rooms that existed outside normal space, accessible only to people who knew the right access codes. "We made a closet that's bigger on the inside than the outside," Minji explained during a video conference with other research teams. "It's only the size of a shoe box on the outside, but inside there's enough room for a whole office." In Mumbai, Dr. Ryu Do-Hein's group made an even more exciting discovery. They found they could make 2 computers communicate instantly across any distance by modifying the quantum connection code. "We just sent a message from Mumbai to London in 0 time, Do-Hein reported excitedly. "Not faster than light speed, actually 0 time. The message arrived before we even finished sending it. But not everyone was happy about humanity's progress. The alien civilizations that had been watching Earth were becoming very upset. Ambassador Clethera from the Altarian Collective called an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. The alien appeared on screens around the world, its blue skin and large eyes showing obvious distress. "Your species is playing with forces beyond your understanding," Clethera warned in its translated voice. "The sacred code was never meant to be changed by mortal beings. You are risking the stability of all existence." President Martinez of the Global Science Council, responded calmly. We appreciate your concern, Ambassador, but we're being very careful. We only make small changes in controlled environments. Small changes can have big consequences. Clethera replied angrily. The architects created these limitations for good reasons. The speed of light, the strength of gravity, the flow of time, these are not suggestions to be modified. They are the foundations that keep reality stable. But humans saw things differently. Dr. Park Sun-ho's team had been studying the original code written by the architects. What they found surprised everyone. The speed of light isn't a cosmic law. Sun-ho explained to a gathering of world leaders. It's just a safety setting. The architects put it there because their computer system couldn't handle faster speeds without crashing. But our modern technology is much better than theirs. This discovery led to humanity's biggest breakthrough yet. Programmer Lee Yuna had been working on something she called space-time editing. Instead of trying to build faster spaceships, she wanted to modify the code that controlled distance and time. Why travel faster when you can just make the distance shorter? Yuna asked her team. Working carefully over several weeks, Yuna's group created what they called an interstellar highway. They modified the space-time code between Earth and the nearest star system, creating a tunnel through reality where distance worked differently. A trip that should take 4 years at light speed now takes 4 hours, Yuna announced proudly. The alien civilizations watched in horror as humans treated the fundamental laws of physics like software that needed updating. While other species had spent millions of years accepting their limitations, humans had spent less than a year learning to ignore them. They modify reality like they're editing a document, complained Zenike, a philosopher from the Etherian Collective, during another diplomatic call. They have no respect for the natural order, but humans didn't see it as disrespect. They saw it as improvement. Every limitation they found in the universe's code was just a problem waiting to be solved. As Taewoo floated his metal ball for the 100th time that week, he smiled. 6 months ago, he had been just a graduate student studying normal physics. Now he was a reality engineer, with the power to rewrite the rules of existence itself. The infiltration of a universe's operating system was complete. Humans were no longer just users of reality. They had become its hackers. 2 years after the first successful reality hack, Captain Cho Sungjin floated in a spacecraft high above Mars, looking down at the red planet that had challenged humanity for centuries. But today was different. Today, his team wasn't going to spend decades trying to change Mars the slow way. They were going to edit the planet, like a computer file. Are all systems ready? Sungjin asked his crew of reality engineers. Engineer Onari sat at her quantum console, her fingers moving across holographic controls that looked like magic to earlier generations. All planetary parameter files are loaded. Captain, I have full access to Mars' environmental settings. The Reality Engineering Corps had become humanity's most elite organization. Only the smartest people who understood both advanced physics and computer programming could join. They were the ones trusted to modify the universe itself. Beginning atmospheric modification, Nari announced calmly, as if she was adjusting the temperature in her living room instead of changing an entire planet. On her screen, Mars appeared as a list of settings like a video game character creation menu. Atmospheric pressure, 0.6% of Earth normal. Oxygen levels, nearly zero. Magnetic field strength, almost nothing. Average temperature, minus 80 degrees. Nari began typing new numbers. Increasing atmospheric pressure to Earth normal. Adding oxygen, nitrogen. Adjusting magnetic field strength to protect against solar radiation. Sungjin watched through the ship's window as the impossible happened before his eyes. The thin, poisonous atmosphere of Mars began to thicken and change color. Brown dust storms cleared away as new weather patterns formed. Ice caps at the poles started melting, creating rivers and lakes across the planet's surface. Gravity staying at Mars normal for now, Nari said. We don't want to mess up the orbital mechanics. Within 6 hours, Mars had transformed from a dead, frozen desert into a green world with blue oceans and white clouds. Plants began growing as Nari activated dormant genetic code hidden in the Martian soil, code that the architects had written but never turned on. Welcome to the new Mars, Sungjin said with a smile. Population, ready for humans. Back on Earth, Dr. Jahun was using reality engineering for something even more amazing. In his medical laboratory, he was curing diseases that had killed humans for thousands of years. Cancer is really just a bug in the biological code. Jahun explained to his medical team. The cells receive wrong instructions and start growing incorrectly. But if we can edit the genetic code directly, he uses quantum medical scanner to look at a patient with advanced cancer. On his screen, the woman's DNA appeared as lines of code, like a computer program. Some of the code lines were highlighted in red, showing where the errors were. Found the problem, Jahun said, pointing to the corrupted genetic instructions. These cells are following the wrong program. Let me fix that. Using his reality modification tools, Jahun carefully edited the woman's genetic code, removing the errors and restoring the correct instructions. Within minutes, her cancer cells stopped growing and began changing back into healthy tissue. Patient is cured, Jahun announced. All cancer cells have been debugged successfully. The medical team had also learned to bring back extinct animals by restoring deleted data from the universe's backup systems. They had successfully brought back woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and even dinosaurs by finding their genetic information in the simulation's trash files. But humanity's most dramatic use of reality engineering came when they faced their first real threat from space. The Zephyrian Empire had been watching humanity's progress with growing anger. These aggressive aliens had conquered dozens of planets using massive war fleets and powerful weapons. When they saw humans casually rewriting the laws of physics, they decided Earth needed to be destroyed before humans became too dangerous. 50 Zephyrian battleships are approaching our solar system, reported Admiral Kim Young-ho from Space Command. They're armed with planet-killing weapons, and they're not responding to diplomatic communications. In the past, humanity would have built bigger weapons or tried to negotiate. But Reality Corps Commander Nam Soyoung had a much simpler solution. Why fight them when we can just change their access permissions? Soyoung said calmly from her command center. She opened her reality modification interface and navigated to the security settings for their local section of space. The Zephyrian fleet appeared on her screen as unauthorized users trying to enter a restricted area. Zephyrian Empire, access denied, Soyoung said, clicking a few buttons on her holographic keyboard. In space, the alien fleet suddenly found themselves unable to move forward. Their ships hit an invisible barrier that they couldn't see or understand. No matter how much power they used, they couldn't enter Earth's solar system. What kind of force field is this? Demanded the Zephyrian Admiral over the communication channel. It's not a force field, Soyoung replied. I just removed your permission to exist in our local space-time. As far as the universe is concerned, you don't have authorization to be here. The Zephyrian ships tried firing their weapons, but the energy blast simply disappeared when they hit the boundary. Soyoung had edited the physics code so that Zephyrian technology couldn't function in their solar system. This is impossible, the alien admiral shouted. Nothing is impossible when you know how to edit the source code, Soyoung said with satisfaction. Other alien civilizations across the galaxy watched in amazement and fear as humans solved in minutes problems that had challenged them for centuries. While they had spent millions of years accepting the limitations of their reality, humans had learned to treat those limitations as suggestions rather than laws. Reality engineering had made humans the most powerful species in the galaxy, not through violence or conquest, but through understanding and mastering the very code that made existence possible. 5 years after discovering the universe was a simulation, Dr. Kong Woojin stood in the reality control center watching something that would have been impossible to imagine just a few years ago. On the massive screens around him, his team was creating a brand new universe from scratch. The new universe is running perfectly, reported Chief Engineer Lim Han, checking the data flowing across her monitors. All the physics are stable, entropy has been eliminated, and we've built an automatic repair systems to prevent any future problems. Wu Jin smiled as he watched the birth of their creation. Unlike the original universe they lived in, this new one had been designed by humans who understood what they were doing. There would be no heat death, no cosmic disasters, and no limitations that didn't serve a purpose. What should we call it? Asked Junior Engineer Park Daeho. Universe 2.0, Wu Jin said simply, "The improved version." But the most important difference between humans and the ancient architects was what happened next. The architects had created the original simulation and then disappeared, leaving all the species inside it to discover their artificial nature on their own. Humans had a different plan. President Yu Jaemin stood before the Galactic Council, a gathering of representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations. The meeting was being held in a virtual space that humans had created, where beings from different planets could meet safely. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Jaemin began, "We stand at a crossroads. For too long, you have lived as prisoners of the original programming, accepting limitations that were never necessary. Today, we offer you something the architects never did, a choice." The alien representatives whispered among themselves in dozens of different languages. Ambassador Clethera of the Altarians, who had once warned humans against tampering with the sacred code, now looked curious rather than angry. "What kind of choice?" asked Zenthak, the wise philosopher from the Etherian Collective. "You can remain as users of the simulation, if that makes you comfortable," Jaemin explained. "We will never force anyone to change their way of life. But for those who want to learn, we invite you to join us as co-administrators of reality. We will teach you to read and write the code that controls existence." The offer sent shockwaves through the galactic community. For millions of years, the various species had accepted their roles as characters in someone else's story. The idea that they could become authors of their own reality was both thrilling and terrifying. Some species, like the traditional Kytherian Empire, immediately rejected the offer. "We are honored to exist as we were created," declared Emperor Vorthan. "We have no desire to play God with the natural order." But others were intrigued. The Etherian Collective, known throughout the galaxy for their wisdom and philosophical thinking, voted to send students to Earth's New Reality Engineering Academy. Director CO Jinhee welcomed the first class of multi-species reality engineers to the academy built in orbit around Earth. The students included humans, Etherians, Altarians, and even a few members of smaller species who had decided to take the risk. "Today you begin the most important education in the history of the galaxy," Jinhee told the mixed group of beings. "You will learn to read the source code of existence itself. More importantly, you will learn to improve it." The training was difficult but exciting. Human instructors worked alongside alien students, sharing knowledge that had been forbidden for thousands of years. They practiced in special training simulations where mistakes couldn't cause real damage to the universe. Zenthak, the Etherian philosopher, proved to be one of the best students. His species' natural wisdom combined with human technical knowledge created incredible results. "I never imagined that understanding how reality works would make it more beautiful, not less," Zenthak told his human instructor, Dr. Yunes Yue, during a practice session. "Knowing that consciousness is information processing doesn't make consciousness less real. It makes it more wonderful." Within 2 years, the Academy had graduated its first class of multi-species reality engineers. They immediately began working on collaborative projects that no single species could have accomplished alone. The Etherian human team created a new type of planet that could support dozens of different forms of life simultaneously. The Altarian human partnership developed improved faster-than-light communication that worked across entire galactic clusters. But the most ambitious project was the Universal Development Foundation, led by the original discoverer Dr. Kim Hanna, now promoted to Director of Galactic Studies. "We're not just creating new universes," Hanna explained to a gathering of engineers from 20 different species. "We're creating nurseries for even more advanced civilizations. Each new universe we build will be designed to help its inhabitants discover their own programming abilities faster than we did." The Foundation created dozens of pocket universes, each one an experiment in how to build better realities. Some universes had simplified physics that made reality engineering easier to learn. Others had built-in tutorial systems that would guide emerging civilizations toward their own technological ascension. As Hannah watched her mixed team of humans and aliens working together on their latest creation, she reflected on how far they had all come. 5 years ago, humanity had been just another species trapped in someone else's simulation, unaware that their reality could be changed. Now they were the teachers of the galaxy, sharing the ultimate knowledge with anyone brave enough to learn it. The universe was no longer running on the architect's old code. It was being continuously improved by a community of species, working together to build better realities for everyone. The universe may have been someone else's code originally, Hannah said to her team as they put the finishing touches on Universe 3.0, but the future belongs to whoever is willing to write it together. The end.